The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. After seeing the trailers for this show, I was expecting another by-the-numbers Marvel project, especially when you compared it to the weirdness of the WandaVision and Loki trailers, but you know what? After watching episode 1, I was pretty hooked. The direction really stood out to me as being way more stylistic and personal than a lot of what we've already seen in the MCU, and then the reveal of the new cap was something I really didn't see coming. I had a whole new outlook on what the Falcon and the Winter Soldier could be, and I couldn't wait to see more. Then the rest of the show happened. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is one of the most frustrating projects Marvel have ever come out with, and a huge waste of potential. On paper, the show sounds like something fresh, something important, an important message backed up by interesting character conflicts with a splash of Marvel action to keep things exciting. But if I was to describe the show, if I was asked to say what is the problem with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I would call it lazy. It's hard to sum up why I think that term so perfectly applies to each of my individual issues with the show, so I think the easiest way is to tackle each problem one at a time. There's too much stuff going on. Okay, let's break it down. So across the show we've got Falcon, we've got the Winter Soldier, obviously. We've got Karli Morgenthau, we've got Zemo, we've got John Walker and Lamar, we've got Sharon Carter, we've got the Dora Milaje, and finally we've got Isaiah Bradley. So we've got 8 main arcs and character plot lines going on. Do you want to know which of these ended in a satisfying way for me? 2. And that's Falcon's and Isaiah Bradley's arcs. So let me reiterate here, 3/4 of the main arcs in this series fell completely flat by the end. I'll start by talking about the 2 arcs that actually do work for me because I believe in giving credit where credit is due. The stories of Falcon and Bradley are pretty intertwined, but I thought their journey from abused, unheard black men to heroes who are loved by the public was really well handled. Not only is it emotional, but it feels so earned. The final moment where Falcon, the first black Captain America, shows the tortured prisoner that his story is now being told in the museum is the perfect culmination of everything that the two have been through in the series. These are heavy themes the show is playing with here, and they're handled so well. So if you can pull that off, what the fuck happened with everything else? Alright, one at a time. So, Bucky. His whole arc is set up in episode 1 where he's befriended the dad of the man he killed when he was brainwashed as the Winter Soldier. The whole show from his side of things is building up to the point where he's finally able to tell this man the truth about what he did. So the scene starts, he tells the truth, and then it cuts away. This is the whole emotional climax to Bucky's arc, and you're just going to yada yada over it like this? He's one half of the title duo, and this is the best you could come up with? The same can be said for every other character. I won't go into Karli now because I have a lot more to say on her later, so let's start with Zemo. So, the villain who tore apart the Avengers is broken out of prison by our leads. It sounds like something that's going to go horribly wrong. So what does he get up to? He says, I know a guy, I know a place, then he just allows himself to be arrested by the Dora Milaje. And then he blows up the van full of villains, which has no consequence on the rest of the final episode. Wow, that was creative. I could probably copy and paste most of what I just said onto Sharon Carter. She randomly shows up, she says, I know a guy, I know a place, then she turns out to be the power broker. Okay, that changes a lot. Then she shoots the main villain with no consequence. Wow, that was creative. Then you have the Dora Milaje, who are clearly a hindrance to the main duo because they want Zemo in jail, but Sam and Bucky need him. So what's going to happen? Are these old friends going to turn into reluctant rivals? Is this going to damage the relationships the heroes have built with them? Oh, they just fail to arrest Zemo once and then show up and walk him away at the end. Wow, that was creative. Then, the most underwhelming of all, we've got John Walker and Lamar. Now, Lamar literally does nothing. His whole character exists for Walker to exposit to and then die. But John Walker, man, this is where it hurts. The whole way through the series, the conflict I was most interested in was the one between the new Captain America and our leads. Every scene between them was tense, and I had no idea who would snap or who would win if a conflict took place. So, he kills a random henchman, he has the title of Captain America taken away, and then just keeps wearing the suit anyway, turns good again and fails to accomplish anything of note, like he can't even save this truck of hostages. There is so much potential for this character. He could have contributed so much to the themes of the show in a much more concise way than having all of these characters thrown in to accomplish one thing each across the series. Instead of having Zemo oppose the heroes by saying the Flag Smashers can only be stopped if they're killed, why not have Walker say that in an overly dedicated attempt to end crime? Instead of having Carter randomly show up and kill Carly, why not have Walker fully turn to the dark side and be the person to kill her? I know I would have found that a way more impactful end to his character arc, and it would feed the theme of the show that violence is not the way forward. It would pit the two Captain Americas against each other and show that Sam's more sympathetic standpoint is right. I'll get more into those themes of the show towards the end, but let's put a pin in that for now and talk about the villain. I know I've said this a couple times already, but what a waste of potential. I don't think I'm alone in saying this, but the Flag Smashers are easily the weakest part of the series. Carly is fighting for the people, her main goal is to achieve equality, and with some nuanced writing and a great performance, this could have been a formula for one of the best villains in the franchise. She could have been sympathetic, layered, and kind of in the right. But oh my god, what a boring character. She lacks any of the writing or acting chops that would be needed to make the emotional climax of the show feel earned in any way, shape or form. I wouldn't be surprised if Marvel were just recycling their villain lines at this point, that's how surface level most of their dialogue is. See, Killmonger isn't a perfectly written or performed villain, but there's enough presence, nuance and charisma there to get the audience to consider his side of things in the moment, making his death scene feel like an earned emotional conclusion. Karli Morgenthau is the opposite. The performance is so understated and lifeless that I struggle to see how someone like this could even muster the charisma to raise an army for her cause, and most of her lines would sound fine if someone were to tweet them, but in a TV show? Yeah, the dialogue leaves a lot to be desired. And that's basically all I can say before I get into my final point, which is the themes of the show are butchered. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is so refreshing in how it tries to tackle social issues in its narrative. So far, Marvel have only done this a couple of times, and when it works in this show, it's the best they've ever done it. But when it doesn't work, oh boy. The main overarching theme of this show is the corruption of power, the use of power by the government to force the disadvantaged back onto the streets, and the use of power from white people to ignore the importance of people of colour, even going as far as imprisoning and threatening the life of one of the main characters. As I said before, these are heavy themes, and I think the show handles race relations very well, but the way they present the other half of the message is, interesting. So in the final episode, Carly is shot dead by Sharon Carter, and this leads to Sam giving a speech about how she should have never been killed, and she should have been reasoned with and properly accounted for. The Flag Smashers were not the bad guys, and this is a chance for the government to do better and consider the experience of the people. Okay, on paper that all sounds fine, great actually. Sam's speech without the context of everything around it is really moving at times, but in the context of everything else, this whole thing falls apart. So the whole message is that violence is not the way forward, yet Carly earns Sam's sympathy despite killing innocent people and admitting she has no regrets or remorse about it through the show. I'd be fine with this if Carly only began killing in her final, more desperate moments on screen, as it would act as a cautionary tale for what poor governmental handling of the disadvantaged can lead to. But her violent actions span the entire show, and if she hadn't been shot, she would have killed Sam when he was trying to reason with and engage in the conversation she was trying to start. Then after the big speech, Sam comes face to face with the person who shot her, who if we're going by his words, should be his enemy right now. And she just says sorry in a throwaway comment and that's that, it's fine, no consequences for you. And to top it all off, it's presented as a triumphant moment when Sam has to go and round up one of Carly's goons who went missing. Pick a side, who are we fighting against here? Are we pumped up to be fighting against the Flag Smashers, or are we fighting against the people who oppressed them and led them to be the killers they turned out to be? If Carly had never killed before, and in her final moments was about to commit her first acts of violence, and she was cooperating with Sam and he was about to win her over through his empathy, then she was killed, I would be all for this conclusion, but the execution just doesn't make sense. We're told that empathy is the only way to make change, but we're never shown it. At no point in the show do the heroes, or anyone for that matter, win through showing empathy for their opponents. Anything anyone accomplishes is through fighting each other. So again, this is where the laziness comes in. The writers wanted a harsh emotional punch and message, but they also want a quippy superhero show where the heroes triumphantly fight against the villains, and don't bother to put them together in a way where each aspect complements the other. Okay, look, I know it sounds like I'm tearing the show apart, but I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't think there was some real potential here. If anything, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a step in the right direction. The fact that these themes are being tackled at all provides hope for the future of the MCU, so maybe this is just a learning curve for Marvel. But the execution here, it leaves a lot to be desired. So there you have it, guys. Thank you for listening. What did you think? Did you like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or do you sort of see where I'm coming from? Leave your thoughts in the comment below. While you're there, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.